Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha Jyayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tat Kim Karmani Gore Mamniyo Jayasi Keshava.
Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work?
Text 2. Vyamishreneva Vyakyana Buddhim Moihaya Shivame Tad Ekam Vara Nishchitya Yenasrayo Hamapnuyam.
My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me.
Text 3. Sri Bhagavanu Vacha Lokesmin Dvidha Nishtha Puro Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yogina.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical, philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service.
Text 4. Na karmanam anarambhan naishkarmyam purushoshnunate na cha sunyasanadeva siddhim samadhi gachyati.
Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
Text 5. Nahi kaschit krishanam api jatu tishtatya karma kret karyate vasya karma sarva prakriti jargunay.
Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
Text 6. Karmendriyani sanyamya yaste manasam smaran indriyarthan vamudratma mithyacharasa uchyate.
One who restrains the senses of action, but whose mind dwells on sense objects, certainly deludes himself and is called a pretender.
Text 7. Yaswin savishishyate.
On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior.
Text 8. Niyatam kuru karma tvam karma jyoyo hiya karmanaha sharirayatra pichate na prasiddhyanda karmanaha.
Perform your prescribed duty, for doing so is better than not working. One cannot even maintain one's physical body without work.
Text 9. Yajna tat karmano inyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sangha samarchara.
Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain free from bondage.
Text 10. Sahayajna praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam esha vostvista kamadhu.
In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, sacrifice, because his performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation."
Text 11. Devan bhava yatanena te deva bhavayantu vaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreya parama vapsyata.
The demigods, being pleased by sacrifices, will also please you. And thus, by cooperation between man and demigods, prosperity will reign for all.
Text 12. Istan bhogan hivo deva dasyante yajna bhavitaha chaidatan apradayabhyo yo bhukte stena eva saha.
In charge of the various necessities of life, the demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, will supply all necessities to you. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods in return is certainly a thief.
Text 13. Yajna sheshtasi nasyanto muchyante sarvakilbishaye bhunjate tevagam papa ye pachyantyatmakaranat.
The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin.
Text 14. Anadbhavanti bhutani parjanyad anasambhavaha yajnad bhavati parjanyo yajna karma mudha bhavaha.
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna, sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties.
Text 15. Karma brahmudha mubhavam vidhi brahmaksharam samudbhavam tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne patishtitam.
Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice.
Text 16. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati hayaha aghayur
Sacrifice, thus established by the Vedas, certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain.
Text 17. Yastvatmaratir eva syad atma triptascha manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate.
But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty.
Text 18. Naivetasya krite nartho na krite neha kashchana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschid arta vyapashrayaha.
A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being.
Text 19. Tasmad asakta santatam karyam karma samarchara asakto hiya charana karma paramapnoti purushaha.
Therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty, for by working without attachment, one attains the Supreme.
Text 20. Karmanaiva hi sansiddhim ashtita janakadayaha loka sanghahamevapi sampasyan kartumarhasi.
Kings such as Janaka attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work.
Text 21. Yad yadarchati shreshtas tat tad eva tarojanaha sayat pramanam kurote lokastadanuvartate.
Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues.
Text 22. Name partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nana vaptavyam varta evacha karmani.
O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything. Yet I am engaged in prescribed duties. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Joli Mataji and Saroj Mataji. Joli Mataji, your Sanskrit is amazing. I guess you've been practicing. It's amazing, really. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Saroj
I have
Mataji.
been practicing. Thank you, Madhu.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't realize I didn't have my video on. Okay. I will try and share my screen. I believe you can see the screen now.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, so of course we are continuing with chapter 3, Karma Yoga, and today we are going to do the verse number 17. So we'll just recite the verse and the translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, and then we'll discuss this verse. Yastav atma ratir eva syad atma triptascha manavaha atmani eva cha santushtash tascha karyam na vidyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Would anybody like to read the purport? It's a very small purport. If there's nobody, then I'll read it. Okay. Sorry?
Yes, Mataji, if I may, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. Purport. A person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many, many thousands of yajna performances. By such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligation to the Vedic injunctions. Such a Krishna conscious person is no longer material activity and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and
Thank you, Mataji. Before we continue, we'll just recite our prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine. Okay, so very interesting verse. Very interesting because from this verse, obviously the tone changes. Previous verses we have been seeing how Krishna is discussing sacrifices, yajna, talking about offering sacrifices to the various demigods, so that the demigods are satisfied, and thus the human being and the demigods can live in harmony. Obviously, satisfying the demigods means satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this verse then changes completely. But what we need to understand is that till we reach this stage of self-realization, we still have obligations. We still have, we still have to pay our debt to so many personalities. Like, for example, we are being given the means to survive by various demigods. Like, we get the sunshine and the moon and the rain. If we didn't have all of that, we wouldn't be able to survive. And in the previous verses, Krishna is talking about how if a person does not perform these yajnas or sacrifices, then he's stena, he's a thief. He's not giving back, which he should, and he's only taking. Likewise, we have debts to give to other living entities. Like, the cow is providing us with milk. There are various plants and trees providing us with food grains. When we are very, very hot, We like to sit under this tree, where we feel nice shade, and there's a nice breeze coming. So there's so much that we have to give back. But now Krishna is talking about somebody who is self-realized, fully surrendered to the devotional service of the Lord. For such a person, there is absolutely no duty that he has to perform. And before we actually understand this entire verse, we look at some personalities from our scriptures to see how these people are and how, when they are completely self-realized, how they behave. So the first character that we can look at is, I'm sure a lot of you know this pastime from the Bhagavatam. This is Sukhadev Goswami. And Sukhadev Goswami, as we know, is a self-realized soul. As soon as he took his birth, he immediately left for the forest. He did not want to get entangled in the material life, and he left for the forest with his father, Srila Vyasadeva, chasing after him. And in the picture, we can see Srila Vyasadeva also. And this particular pastime is actually showing how Sukhadev Goswami, being such a self-realized person, did not care for anything or anybody. So here what is happening is he left for the forest, and while he was walking through the forest, he came across this water body, this lake, where there were young girls bathing and sporting in the water. Now, these young girls, when they saw Sukhadev Goswami, they did not at all feel embarrassed, or they did not feel shy. They did not feel the need to cover themselves. But then immediately they saw Srila Vyasadeva chasing Sukhadev Goswami, and at that time they felt this need to cover themselves. Now, this is just showing us, what it is showing us is, it's not that it's mainly what it is telling us is that Sukhadev Goswami was just so absorbed in his own within self that he did not care for anything. He was roaming around like a madman, completely naked, because he didn't think that there is anything wrong being like that, because he was absorbed within himself, did not care for anything outside. And he only saw Krishna within and without also. Whereas Vyasadeva, of course, being a very, very realized and enlightened soul, in this particular pastime, because he was in the role of a householder, he was a married man, so he was a grihastha. So obviously that comes into play, and the ladies felt shy of him, and they covered themselves. But we also know that eventually Sukhadev Goswami reaches this place where all the sages are discussing that it is the last 7 days of Parikshit Maharaj, and who will be able to enlighten him. And then, of course, we know that Sukhadev Goswami sits down and talks to Parikshit Maharaj and speaks the entire Bhagavatam in these 7 days. So we have many such personalities in our scriptures who are completely self-realized, and so they have no other desire except for the desire to serve Krishna. Like if we remember Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj was very young. He was the king, and he had a beautiful wife, he had children, but he renounced all of this. He gave up his wife, he gave up his young children, and he went to the forest in pursuit of his spiritual realization. So he was able to renounce everything. He had absolutely no attachment for all this wealth and fame and, wife and children. He gave up everything. Then we also have the example of Raghunath Das Goswami from the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. If there are some new members on this call who probably don't know all these personalities, don't worry about it, because on and off, we keep discussing these various personalities. These are just some great characters who, when we look at their lives, we can see how they were so self-realized and so content within themselves that they did not care for anything else, and thus they did not need to perform any other duty, which is what we are discussing in today's verse. So some of the Sanskrit terms that have been used to describe such personalities is Atmarati. Atmarati means he is so self-satisfied. Atmarati exactly says here, taking pleasure in the self. Then, there are so many words in this particular verse itself describing. It says Atma Tripta, self-illuminated. Santushta, he's satisfied. And because he is like this, that's why he does not have to do any other duty. Tasya karyam na vidyate. He does not need to perform any other duty because he's enlightened and realized. If we take a very, very mundane example, because we are utilizing so many facilities from the government, we need to pay taxes, right? We're paying taxes and the government is giving us these facilities. In the same way, we are performing various yagyas to the demigods because we are taking things from the demigods. We are accepting facilities in our life from the demigods. However, if a person is completely self-realized and is surrendered to the devotional service of the Lord, why he does not need to perform any duties, that's very important to understand. We will discuss it further, but just here, and the example that we can use, or the analogy we can use, is that when you water the roots of the plant, that water is distributed to the branch and to the leaves and to every part of the plant, right? So a person who is surrendered in devotional service to Krishna, because the demigods are non-different to Krishna, is able to satisfy the demigods, the forefathers, all other living entities, his family, everybody, because he is able to water the root of the plant, satisfy the source of everything. Another example that we can take is that when you are eating, you don't spread the food all over your body saying, if I put the food on my hands and legs, they will be satisfied. The food goes to the stomach and the energy then is transferred to each and every part of the body. So like that, once a person realizes that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the whole and soul, everything is emanating from him, and if I can satisfy him, then I don't need to perform any other duties. But of course, one has to come to that stage, like Sukhadev Goswami. Prabhupada often quotes this particular verse, which is actually, it's such a beautiful verse. It appears in various places. It's from the Pancharatra, but it appears in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam 11.18.4. And the verse is, Aradhito yadi haris tapasa tatakim, naradhito yadi haris tapasa tatakim, antar bahir yadi haris tapasa tatakim, nantar bahir yadi haris tapasa tatakim. It's very melodious and it's very, very nice. So understand the meaning. So I'll read the English. If one is worshipping the Lord properly, what is the use of severe penances? And if one is not properly worshipping the Lord, what is the use of severe penances? If Sri Krishna is realized within and without everything that exists, what is the use of severe penances? And if Sri Krishna is not seen within and without everything, then what is the use of severe penances? Very, very deep verse, but so important to kind of think about it. We may not totally get, totally understand it, but it's it just makes so much sense that, and there is a related verse in the Bhagavatam that, if you're not realizing the ultimate goal, that is not understanding Sri Krishna, then whatever you are doing is shrama eva hi kevalam, you're just wasting your energy. So this exact thing is being said over here, that if you're worshipping the Lord, then there is no need to do anything else. And if you're doing lots of other things, performing all your prescribed duties, but if you're not reaching that stage of worshipping the Lord, what is the point? In our previous classes, we have seen how performing prescribed duties actually is just leading to the purification of our souls. So we are performing duties so that we get purified. We get purified so that we come to the stage where we can realize the absolute truth. So Prabhupada would often quote this verse in a lot of his classes. And there's a Hindi saying, I'm not sure if a lot of you will understand, and it's not like it's not having the same meaning, but it's interesting, the play of words. And I'm just going to say, people who understand, it's great. I'll explain the meaning, but it's an interesting play of words, like how it's an interesting play of words here. It says that Poot saput to kyo dhan sache, and Poot kaput to kyo dhan sache. What it means is that in olden times, probably that's not the culture so much, but at least previously and even today, I think, the culture is that the son looks after, it's the duty of the son to look after the old parents. So this saying says Poot saput, meaning if your son is good, you don't need to collect wealth. People generally will collect wealth so that, it'll serve them in their old age. So it says here that if you have a good son, you don't need to collect wealth because he will look after you anyways. And then in the same breath, it says, but if you have Poot kaput, kaput means if he's not a good son, there's no point of collecting the wealth because he's going to throw away the wealth anyways. So interesting play of words. I thought, it was just, it's not related, but I just kind of brought it up because it was interesting. Forgive me, it doesn't make sense. Okay, let's carry on. Now, so from this particular purport, we're going to take these characteristics of a self-realized person. Prabhupada has very clearly, actually, it's a small purport, but he's given us these points very, very clearly, and let's look at that. So what happens with a self-realized person? He is completely satisfied in the acts of Krishna consciousness. He does not seek any other satisfaction at all. He's completely, his life is just devoted to performing Krishna conscious activities, to performing devotional services. Because he's acting in Krishna consciousness, he's freed from all sins. As we read in the purport, Prabhupada says, all impiety is gone, right? And that is why he doesn't need to perform any yagyas to clear his sins, because just by performing Krishna conscious activities, he's freed from all sins. See, it says in the purport that all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many, many thousands of yagya performances. So here, he does not need to perform any yagyas, because just by acting in Krishna consciousness, performing devotional service frees him from all sins. Once you're free from all, sorry, there is some sound and I'm just going to try and mute people. Can I ask everybody to just mute yourselves? Right. So, once you start acting in Krishna consciousness and you are freed from all sins, your eternal constitutional position is revealed. And again, we'll look at the same aspects in the next slide in a bit more depth. But when you're free from sins, your eternal constitutional position is revealed. And then you don't need to follow any Vedic injunctions, because then you're performing the duties directed by the Lord. See, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that by all the Vedas I am to be known. Vedaischa sarve aham eva vedya vedanta krit veda vid eva taham. He says, I am the compiler of the Veda. From all Vedas I am to be known. So once we know Krishna, then there is no need to follow any Vedic injunctions, right? And then one is completely freed from any kind of material activities. You totally lose interest in material activities, right? Now let's look at more deeply how a Krishna conscious person is free. So as we saw in the previous slide, Krishna consciousness purifies you. So all impiety is cleansed. When all impiety is cleansed, your eternal position is revealed. What is your eternal position? Jivera Swarup Hoy Nityera Krishna Das. So you realize that Krishna is the supreme. I am part and parcel of Krishna. I am eternally the servant of Krishna. So you realize that identity, and then you realize that all this that currently what I am facing or dealing with is temporary. It's not permanent. The only permanent thing is my relation with Krishna. So then you become self-illuminated. This is from the purport. All of this is from the purport, what Prabhupada is telling us. So you become self-illuminated. How? Jnana Deepena Bhasvata Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Tesam Satata Yuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam. Yeah, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mam Upayantite. So he says, Dadami Buddhi, I give the understanding, right? By which you become self-illuminated, by which you get your realizations that who am I? What is my relation with Krishna? What is my dharma? What is my duty? Okay. Once you reach that stage, then you lose all material interest. Na teshu ramate buddha. This is also from the Bhagavad Gita, that it says that an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. Once you realize that it is only the material senses, it is only because of the modes of material nature that you are entangled in this cycle of birth and death, you lose all interest in performing any kind of material activities, right? And thus, then you become free from all obligations. And this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.41, where it says, O king, one who has given up all material duties and has taken full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary living beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even one's forefathers who have passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. So you see what's happened here. Till now in the previous verses, we were talking about how we need to serve the demigods, we need to serve our forefathers, we are indebted to so many people, so we're doing all of these things. And here, Krishna immediately says, but a person who is self-realized, self-satisfied, has no obligations to anybody. Now, again, we can look at some examples which we have discussed in chapter 2. So hopefully a lot of you may remember this. And this is the example, this is the personalities like Yamunacharya. You know, there is a verse where Yamunacharya says that from the time I have taken to the devotional service of the Lord, when I think about interacting with a lady, I want to just spit at that thought, because that thought is just, so what he's expressing is, because I have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, the thought of interacting with a lady is so disgraceful. So he has reached a stage where he is self-satisfied, self-illuminated. Then we have the story or the example of Ambarish Maharaj. All of us know this, the story of Ambarish Maharaj, because this is very, very famous, where he was performing his Ekadashi Vrat, and the next day he had to, there is a time where you have to break the fasting. And just at that time, then, why do I forget the name of the sage who came? Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni. Thank you, Kanta Mataji. So Durvasa Muni came along, and, obviously, he said, well, Ambarish Maharaj, knowing the etiquette, Durvasa Muni is a guest, I must first look after his needs and then I can break the fast. And Durvasa Muni says, he has to go for a bath and whatever else. The point over here being made is how Ambarish Maharaj, being a devotee of the Lord, was able to control and capture his need for even food. He was able to stay hungry because he was so engrossed in his service to the Lord and to the Lord's devotees. So we have examples of personalities who are, once they are fixed in their Krishna consciousness, are able to then control all other senses, and that is why they lose all material interest. So it says over here very clearly that a person acting in Krishna consciousness is naturally free from all the bonds of karma. His activities are all performed for Krishna, therefore he does not enjoy or suffer any of the effects of work. So Krishna is trying to explain to Arjuna, we are at the stage where Arjuna has refused to fight, and so Krishna is enlightening him about the various parts of devotional service, right? So we've seen in the past, in chapter 2, it's contents of the Gita summary. So he's spoken to him about the Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all of those things. And here again, Krishna is talking about this. But what he's trying to say to Arjuna is, even if a person is at that stage and he's self-realized and he's Atmarati, he continues to perform his duties. Why does he do that? Because he needs to set an example for the common people. It is not like you've reached the stage, so you stop performing your duties. However, the duties that you're performing, your consciousness is completely different. Everything that you're doing it for Krishna. And because you're doing it for Krishna, there is no bonds of karma. You're totally free from any karma. And that is why you do not suffer or enjoy, I'm just going to stop sharing, any of the karma. And that's exactly what this verse is talking about. It is not saying that a person who is Atmarati or is Santushta does not perform his duties. He performs his duties being totally detached, not being attached to the fruits of those duties. Like, for example, that, we still perform charity. But charity that is performed in the mode of goodness and sometimes even transcending that mode, being performed for Krishna. Otherwise, sometimes charity is performed in the mode of ignorance and passion. We've discussed this, but just to recap, sometimes, you're doing charity because you think, let me donate so and so amount, so my name will come in the list of donors. People will recognize me that I have done this. You see? But a person who is self-realized, is self-satisfied, is in devotional service, is Krishna conscious, will do the same act. But because he will do it for Krishna, the consciousness completely changes. And that is what this verse is highlighting. So just to recap, what we're talking about over here is that one cannot stop performing their duties unless one is at the stage of being a self-realized and self-satisfied person. One cannot falsely give up performing your duties, as stated in the previous verses by Krishna. One has to continue performing one's duties. But if you reach a stage where you're self-realized, you still continue performing your duties, but with complete detachment as an offering to Krishna. And then such performance of duties does not create any kind of bondage. So this is what is, the main theme that we're taking from this verse. And I shall stop here for any questions or comments or corrections. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari. Always wonderful, wonderful delivery of your wonderful talk. And I feel, when sometimes you offer a plate to somebody, to you're serving, and that plate, sometimes people put things any order. It doesn't look so platable, and it's not so appetizing, thing. But you have put everything in such a way, you are offered to Krishna in such a way, and it looks so pleasing. It's Krishna really pleased with your offering, the way you have deliver the whole message. It's really, really wonderful. I really appreciate your delivery of the message. Lot of things you have said. I mean, like also people who are self-realized, and they become so peaceful within themselves, and their presence make everybody very peaceful. That's what Srila Prabhupada is trying to help us to understand, how we need to be very Krishna conscious to help myself and help the other soul to become elevated, so that our association can become pleasing to anybody around us. So Krishna, that way we are pleasing Krishna. And by pleasing Krishna, everybody
Yes.
around you will be very pleased. So this is my understanding from the delivery of your knowledge. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Mataji. You're very kind and you're always encouraging me. Today I thought, I'll be honest with you, I'll be honest with all of you. Today I thought I'm just all over the place and I didn't know what I'm doing. And I was just a bit like, but I'm grateful to all of you Vaishnavas that you are so patiently listening and you're encouraging me. Thank you so much.
It was really wonderful, Madhu Kumari. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Jyoti Mataji.
I am encouraged, actually. I feel it's like a quick fix when it's kind of shortcut to where we want to go. Because most of the chapters tell you that you have to perform so many different yagnas to get there. But Krishna conscious, and maybe you can enlighten us a bit more about what does it mean, Krishna conscious? What does it involve, so that we know it's not like just turning a page and that's it,
No, in fact, Srila Prabhupada always said that when he spoke about this chapter, specifically Karma Yoga. So this is talking about the different ladders. It's like a step, step by step by step. So we've got, Nishkama Karma Yoga and Karma Yoga and Bhakti Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, whatever. But Prabhupada said that you could actually get the elevator and come right up. Now, what that means and what Krishna consciousness means is being conscious of the presence of Krishna 24/7 in everything that you're doing. Realizing that you are not the controller, you are not the doer. There is somebody else who is controlling each activity of yours. There is somebody else who is actually doing it. That is Krishna consciousness. Being aware that you're not alone. First of all, being aware that I'm not alone. There is somebody else. Being aware that I'm not this body. I am somebody else. Who is this I? Who is this I? So being aware of that, being aware, okay, I, and then who is somebody else who is within me? Who is this? What is my relation with him? That is Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said once, and I think I have said this story before also because it really touches me. Once there was, Prabhupada was giving a class, and there was one devotee who stood up and he said, I want to get initiated. And Prabhupada asked him 2 questions. He said, okay, if you can answer these 2 questions. He said, who is Krishna and what is your relationship with Krishna? And the devotee answered, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and I am the eternal servant. And Prabhupada said, that's it. So if you think about it, Krishna consciousness, like, Srila Prabhupada always said, is simple for the simple and complicated for the complicated. It's very simple. It's really very simple. Krishna is the supreme eternal presence. He is the supreme personality and I am the eternal servant, and that's it. So if I am the eternal servant, then what is my eternal dharma? That's it, really. That's Krishna consciousness. I don't know if that helps, Joli Mataji.
Absolutely, very good. It's really helpful. Thank you. So really, you can take the elevator, which is wonderful.
Yes.
I like how you put that.
Yes.
And we are focusing a lot more on Sankirtan Yagna.
Yes.
So I think that is a very good way of engaging and really and looking at yourself and being.
Yes, because for the Kali Yuga, the only yagya that we can perform is the Sankirtan yagya. And also, see that we hear a lot, but to actually realize it, that Krishna is non-different from his holy name. So when you're performing the Sankirtan yagya, you are actually satisfying Krishna the most, because he's non-different from his name. And that is why we should all, that's why we should all chant and perform the Sankirtan Yagya. Mahaprabhu has said that that's the only Yagya that one can perform in this Kali Yuga.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, there is a question from Jai Prabhu. How is our eternal constitutional position revealed? Don't we already know by reading books and coming to these classes that we are eternal servants of Krishna? Yes, Jai Prabhu, the problem is that theoretically we know it. Practically and in practice, are we applying? That is the main thing. And how we actually start to practically apply it in our day-to-day life is by performing devotional service. The moment you start doing different kind of services, sometimes some services you may not even like them because they are not according to your character, but you're still doing it because it is either pleasing the Lord or it is pleasing other devotees. And when you put yourself in that position, that is the time that you become a servant. See, what is the role of a servant? The role of a servant is to satisfy the master. The servant never thinks of his own senses. The servant is always thinking of how he can satisfy the master. And although by reading we do know it theoretically, but practically we are still not able to come to a position where we are putting our senses or our sense gratification to the side and giving priority to satisfying the senses of the Lord. So once we come to that position, then you will realize and you will feel that, yes, now I'm feeling happiness, I'm feeling satisfied, and I'm realizing my eternal position practically. I hope that makes sense. Jai Prabhu, I hope that makes sense. Yes, okay. Hema Mataji says, Prithu Maharaj says, as the Father knows the necessities of the Son and supplies them, the Lord knows the necessities of living entity and supplies them sumptuously. Our duty is simply to surrender to Krishna and let him take charge, for he knows what is good for us. So true, Hema Mataji. I say this all the time to my children, whenever they are going through, let's say, because, it's difficult to be in this world and you're studying and you want to achieve something. And whenever the children say, that I don't know what's going to happen. And I always say, Krishna knows best. Just have faith. He will only do the best for us. Always. Always. Any other questions or queries or comments?
Sorry, Mataji, Hare Krishna, again, wonderful class. I have a question regarding, where you said that we have no obligation, devotees have no obligation to their forefathers. So I struggle with this Shraddha thing, this month of Shraddha. I feel that if that is the case, if this verse says this, then I know we're kind of not, we are sadhakas, so we're not kind of pure devotees or anything. But if we have surrendered to the Lord, then is it necessary to perform Shraddha ceremonies? I'm not sure. I'm just very confused with this.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I will share something with you. Mahaprabhu also went to perform Shraddha ceremony for his father. Yeah. So there is the pastime where Mahaprabhu has gone to perform the Shraddha ceremony in Gaya, and that is where he meets a spiritual master. So we know that. Yes. The point is that we are not at that stage. So unless we are at that stage, which is what we've been discussing, we should not falsely give up things. If we are not at that stage where we feel that by not doing this, it's not going to disturb me, then we should not give it up. And if it satisfies you, or if you feel good about performing Shraddha, there's nothing wrong with it. However, it clearly says that once we have taken to Krishna consciousness and once we have surrendered to the Lord, we are not really obligated to perform this. And Krishna in the Gita and Prabhupada in his classes has said that one devotee can, the family, how many generations of family they can get liberated if one person just takes sincerely to Krishna consciousness. However, the underlying point is, have we reached that stage? If we haven't, then it is best to continue performing our duties. That's what is being said even in this verse, that if you have reached that stage, right? And also, Hema Mataji, there is a very, very wonderful class which was given a couple of years back by His Grace Karthik Chandra Prabhu on this particular topic. And that is the class that I refer to whenever anybody asks me questions about Shraddha. It's a wonderful class, and I will share that link with you. Please listen to that class. You will get all the answers.
Wonderful. Yes, I'd appreciate that. Yes, thank you, Mataji. But I suppose feeding the Vaishnavas is the best option for us, isn't it?
Of course. And even now, I know of many people when Shraddha ceremony, so they offer to the Lord, of course, and then they give prasad to their forefathers, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not, also, it's not always out of an obligation or duty, it's also out of love. So if it is out of love, there's no harm in doing that,
Absolutely, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you for clarifying that. Wonderful.
No problem. There is a question here. Sorry, 1 second. I don't have the name. So there's a question. Thanks for a wonderful session. Is Atmarati same as Atmaram? Okay. Also, Havans are many hours of hard work. Is it same as or more than just thinking of Krishna? Example, rituals for new home, the departed souls in my life. I mean, thinking is more important than action. Sorry, I'm a bit confused. Okay. Again, what is very, very important to understand is, am I at that stage of a pure devotee that my thoughts are completely pure when I'm thinking of Krishna? If I'm not at that stage, then it is important for me to follow all the rules or regulations or whatever activities that are being set out by our acharyas. Because think about this now. We're offering bhoga to the deities at the temple, in our homes, and we have various mantras to recite, right? Somebody may say that, it's the love that Krishna sees. So why do we need to recite these mantras? And I'll give you a story, a very short story about this. So there was this old lady. I spoke this story just on Monday. So Santosh Mataji knows about this. There is this old lady who used to cook for her deities. So she used to wake up in the morning and immediately she used to start cooking for her deities and she would offer the bhoga, right? In fact, so much so that, you know, in olden times, we did not have a toothbrush and that, you know, you used to brush your teeth with those sticks, the bamboo sticks and whatever. So she would be cleaning her teeth and from the other end, she would actually stir the, whatever she was cooking, let's say khichdi, she would stir that and give that to the lords, yeah? Once one acharya passed by and he saw this and he was taken aback. He was like, this is not the way you serve deities. You need to shower, you need to, you know, clean yourself and then you offer the food. And so from the next day, she started doing that. But then the deities appeared in the dream of this acharya and they said, you know, why have you done this? We feel very hungry. We don't have the time to wait for her to, you know, shower and clean herself. We don't have that time. And we loved the service that she was doing. So let her do what she was doing, right? And then he came back to her and he said this. Then we can take the example of Shabri. When Shabri was feeding Ramchandra the berries, she was tasting them, whether they are, you know, sour or sweet, and she was giving it to them. Can any of us do that? Are we at that stage? Is our heart that pure? Are we at, you know, have we reached that stage? So till we don't reach that stage, it is very important to follow the various, you know, like the vidhis that have been given to us, follow them, because slowly by following those, you will develop that love. But till you don't reach that stage, it's important that you continue performing your duties the way it has been written down in the scriptures. Does that make sense? I know what you're saying, that mechanical actions are more like it for me now. Well, for all of us, I think we are performing actions where we may think it is mechanical, but bear in mind that slowly these same actions will take us to a stage, hopefully one day, where you will develop love for Krishna. And then these mantras, even when you're chanting these mantras, you will do it with so much love and faith. That's it. Okay, I hope that answers. Okay, yeah. Any other questions, queries?
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you
Atmaram.
for.
Sorry, one second. Atmaram and Atmarati, to be honest with you, I don't know that. I mean, I'm not really sure. I will have to look into it. So I'm sorry, that one I cannot answer. I know Atmaram means self-satisfied, but Atmarati means somebody who's taking pleasure in the self. So it seems to be the same, but I'm not 100% sure. I'll have to look it up.
Rati means love. I think
Yeah.
probably the self-love.
Yeah, that's what Rati means, love. So Atmarati means self-love and Atmaram means self-satisfied. So I'm not sure if it's the same kind of meaning. If anybody else knows the answers, maybe, or... Okay. Any other questions? There is a question on the chat, but before that, somebody else was speaking.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for wonderful session, as always. And I was just thinking to ask you, when you share the link, will you share it in the Kartik Chandra Prabhu's in the chat group?
Yes, I think I will do that, because on the chat, there is a question from Rita Kumari Mataji. Why do we have to perform the Shraddha every year? What are the benefits of doing Shraddha for our in-laws? So like I answered already, you know, that it is all what you feel, what stage you're at. You know, if you've been doing something like Shraddha, you don't want to suddenly give it up if you're not at that stage. So like, you know, falsely giving up something where your heart is still not ready for it doesn't make sense. But I will share this link, which is a wonderful lecture about Shraddha. I hope all of you listen to it, and I'm sure you will get loads of answers from that lecture. I think I'm also going to listen to it again.
Thank you for that, Mataji. I just felt like saying, when you're offering, I felt like if you really meditate on the mantra, rather just doing it, and that's a very different mood and a different stage.
Yes.
Otherwise, because sometimes I don't, honestly, but when you do it, then you feel it's very different connection.
Yes. And one of the Matajis actually on Monday said something which was really lovely. She said that Krishna does not take prasad the way we do, take bhoga, you know, he can take it through any of the parts of his bodies, you know, his ear, his eyes, and whatever. So when you're chanting the mantras, he's listening. So even with his ears, he's accepting what you're offering. So that is why, you know, if you chant those mantras with heart, then, you know, you will realize, you will feel that it is not mechanical. Anybody else? Okay, it looks like we have satisfied all the questions and answers. So if everybody is satisfied and happy, we will stop here, and hopefully we shall meet next week again. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for joining every day regularly. This is amazing that you all take this time out every single day. It's really wonderful. And I hope to see more of you all at the manor now that things are opening up. We shall meet in person, hopefully. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyo
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo
Namaha.
Namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Class, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna
Thank
Mataji.
you.
Thank you very much for the beautiful class. Thank you.